You might hear a few kids outside as we're recording. It's Wednesday this week. It's a lovely day and some kids are at recess. It's just fun, great sound. Speaking of kids, tomorrow the governor declared as Believe in Gianna Day. Gianna is a parishioner here, went to school until health conditions limited that for her. Still has 2 siblings here. And, she has Sanfilippo syndrome. It's an incurable disease that usually takes kids' lives in adolescence, and it's called Believe in Gianna Day as we celebrate and pray for all kids who have rare or incurable or awful diseases. So we'll have a prayer service and she'll be able to be here. She's in a clinical trial and doing okay right now. And so I know we just keep a place in our hearts for all kids who hurt, for all who love them, for all who do research and medical care. Yeah. And may we never take for granted how blessed we are, right? This weekend, we're going to be unveiling some possible campus upgrades and improvements. We're just growing so dramatically. It's just beautiful, my gosh. The sheer volume of good quality things. You can check all of that out in the bulletin. For right now, this gospel question: how do you go on when your worst fears come true? When your temples, so to speak, get torn down? And thanks for joining. When I was a young priest, yes, I used to be young, a woman named Michelle moved into the parish at Our Lady Queen of Peace in House Springs, where I was the associate. Michelle, in her 20s, was excited to be a part of the life of our parish. She was athletic and enthusiastic, and she brought a good energy to all that she was a part of. Now, Michelle had an unfortunate surgery that left her paralyzed. This young, energetic woman would never walk again. Suddenly, the future she had planned for and counted on was gone. Her temple, so to speak, was torn down. Life was dramatically changed and forever. Today, Jesus points to the temple, this magnificent edifice that was kind of like the pride and joy of the Jewish folks. In some ways, it represented their history, their connection to God, and the promise of their future. Jesus gestures towards the temple and says that the days are coming when all of this will be torn down. This magnificent, beautiful edifice will be rubble. To those who heard Jesus, this seemed incomprehensible, right? How could such a thing happen? And if it did, how could we ever be okay again? I think we know that same fear in our guts when we face a possibility or the reality of our temples being torn down, right? How could we ever be okay when the future we planned, and what we thought we had to have to be okay might no longer be there? Sadly, no one gets through life without having those painful, frightening times when our temples get torn down. As much as we wish we could, we cannot secure a world for ourselves where nothing will change and where we won't face, at least at some point, significant loss, unexpected transitions, deep letting goes. Maybe we get laid off from the company we thought would be our future. Mom and dad get divorced, or the political divisions have separated family members one from another. Our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our spouse wants to end the relationship and is already seeing someone else. The diagnosis does not look good at all. Or someone we love dies, leaving many things unspoken. For each of us, at some point, the letting goes come, sometimes so significant that they seem to leave our world in ruins. What do we do when we thought that everything we needed to have to be okay is no longer there? What do we hang on to? Jesus gives his answer today. He says to his disciples, he says to us, even when you are betrayed and persecuted, even when all your temples crumble and fall to the ground, not a hair on your head will be destroyed. In other words, there is that which lasts. And yes, sometimes our biggest fears do come true. But Jesus knows the heart of God. He knows that because God is with us in the adventure of life and its heartaches, something new can emerge from the rubble. I mean, the Jews did experience this after the destruction of the temple. On one level, it seems like that loss helped open them in ways they would not have otherwise to the presence of God in different ways and in different places, and really at some level all around them. God was with them. And Jesus tells us that God can do that with us, really. And because God is in it with us, from the rubble there can always come a new good. I mean, not the same good we used to know and wanted to continue, but a new good. How do we learn to be open to this possibility that there's hope even in the midst of the rubble? And how do we prepare ourselves so that when our temples get torn down, we can be open to this new good, this new thing that God can bring forth from the ruins? Well, first of all, we grieve. We grieve the losses. We got to name them, yeah? Our world will not be the same, and there's such pain and letting go. We must, I believe, embrace and lament our loss and heartache. Secondly, sometimes it is good then to look at past letting goes and losses and notice, we survived, right? We've known heartache and defeat, but we made it. We're changed, but we're still here. And maybe even we found some blessings we think we might really not have found except for what we suffered. It is the truth that we need to remind ourselves that on the other side of this loss, this setback, there is something else that awaits. And it's possible that something good can and will emerge from the rubble. Not the same good, but something good. And thirdly, we do what we can to stay healthy along the way, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that doesn't fix everything, but it helps us be in a position to better receive the graces of healing and perspective and hope. And in particular, I believe it's good to learn now to nurture the habit of prayer and the support of other people who care. It's really one of the gifts of belonging to a church family. Praying with others as part of that church family. No one can suffer for us, but we don't have to do it alone. We're not really called to. We're in this together. Just a few thoughts. There's others, but those are just a few. back to Michelle. When the heartbreaking news came to our Parish family joined Michelle's biological family and prayed with her, cried with her, laughed with her, and tried to sustain her in the midst of it all as best as we could. Now, we had a retreat program some months later that Michelle joined us for. She came in her wheelchair, and at the end of the retreat, as was the pattern, we passed the microphone and invited participants to say any blessing they might have found on the retreat. And when Michelle was handed the microphone, she spoke of a blessing she found, and then she said, she looked up, and I never forget the look on her face when she said, quietly and sincerely, "What I learned from this retreat is that you don't need 2 legs to walk with Jesus." From the rubble, God was starting to build something new in her life. Now, a follow-up to end. Because I had moved on from that parish, I had not seen Michelle or talked to her for years. And one day I was listening to the news on the radio, and the reporter was following a group of people in the city who were protesting, clamoring for access on sidewalks for people in wheelchairs. And they handed the microphone to a woman whose voice I recognized. It was Michelle, lobbying for people like her who could not get onto sidewalks for lack of curb cuts into them. And I smiled at myself and I thought, way to go, Michelle. Way to go. And when her own personal temple was torn down, she learned that you don't need 2 legs to walk with Jesus. And now what she had come to know was becoming a gift to many others. Our temples do get torn down. But as Michelle showed me, so far our lives, from the rubble, God can always work a new good.